Hello, good day. I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about what I see when I see people who are in the present moment compared to what I see when people are in their mind and thinking. And so I thought I would make it a little visual. So if this is your body and this is your spirit, okay, and we take a look at people who are present in the now, their spirit, to me, when I look at it energetically through the aura, is in the body. Pure presence. That is where knowing exists. That is where living in the heart exists. So, what happens when people think too much? This is what it's like when we're born. We're fully in the body. We're present. We're in the now. And then, slowly, the more thought happens, the more things are defined for us, the more that we are taught good and bad, positive and negative, the more that we begin the process of learning who we are or the story of us, this is what begins to happen. The spirit begins to come out of the body, or the mind is out of the body. This is what it looks like to me. So, most people are walking around every day. They're not present. Their mind is somewhere else all the time. It's on something else. So in it being on something else for the majority of their life, their spirit exists outside their body. So often what happens, that's what people call, another word for it is not being grounded. And that is what I see. The spirit's feet are in the body's knees. The knees are in the hips. The waist is at the shoulders. The head of the body is, nothing is in alignment, and the head is way out of the body. That is what I see when I see someone who overthinks or who thinks a lot. And the majority of humanity, this is where destruction happens. This is where mental illness happens. This is where, many diseases happen, is in this experience. However, when we begin to become present and we begin to disengage thought, we slowly become back in the body. Now, most people want from this, once they desire or they get the need to want to become awake or liberated, most people want this to this. Now that's like 1 in a million people that actually happens to. And often this happens, when this happens, it's through a destructive process or something extreme happens in their life that they suddenly wake up and they suddenly get it. This is what I see for maybe 1 in a million, maybe more. I obviously don't have exact numbers, but it is a large number. However, when we begin the process of wanting to come into the now, this is what happens. We start like this, and then we slowly, one day we are present, and we come back in, and then the next day we're out still again, and then we're back, and then we're out, and then we're in a little longer, in the body a little bit longer, and longer, and then we're out a little less, and in the body even longer, and out, and eventually, sometimes that's a 2-year process where you eventually get it. You encase the body. You become present. But what happens in the meantime? What happens when people are just about at that experience where they're there and they get it and they wake up and they know? What happens? Because many people get this experience and then all of a sudden, whoo, they go back for the rest of their life. What is it that happens? So, just to explain this. When you go into the body, you're no longer getting your dopamine fix in the same experience. So you're no longer getting a dopamine fix this way. Your dopamine fix through attention, through other people's praise, through other people's disapproval. You're no longer getting a dopamine fix this way, okay? Which is a mind dopamine fix, okay? So that addiction, when beginning to break it, when we are in the body, okay? You're no longer getting your dopamine fix through that. You're no longer needing attention. You're no longer needing other people's approval. You're okay with what is as it is. So what begins to happen? Why do people go back out? Why do they go back into this experience? Because this begins to feel boring to people at first. Their mind will tell them, I'm bored. I'm bored. I'm doing nothing. There's nothing to do. I'm bored. They become restless. There is a confusion that exists in the body, or in the being is a better way of putting it. Almost confused because there's a nothingness going on. And so they become restless. And when the mind becomes restless, if you cannot stand at the door and wait or hold your presence, if there's not enough for you to hold your presence, if this isn't strong enough and the mind is stronger, this is what's going to happen. Wrong way. This is what's going to happen. Or another way to look at it is the spirit's in front of the body. So someone with not enough presence will end up like this again. And will go back to their dopamine fix and back on, wherever getting their attention. Might be Facebook, might get their attention that way. They might get their attention at work. They might get their attention through a negative relationship. They might get their attention through, there's so many different aspects of life in which they could be getting their dopamine fix, their mind dopamine fix through this way. However, when you go back into the body, the person who has, and it's not willpower because you're not forcing it. It is a beingness. It is a strength. It's not even explainable. It's really not explainable because there is an inner strength that comes from you that most people, when they get into the confusion, okay, I'm here, nothing's going on, I feel restless, I don't know what to do. It's easy just to go back to the old program for most people. It's easy to go back to being out of the body and thinking and trying to figure it out again. I'm going to go back and figure it out again. So, but the person, the being who stands at the door and waits in nothingness, and is present with their confusion, and is present with their restlessness, and is present with their boredom. And it's just what the mind calls boredom. You can never be doing nothing. Even sitting on the couch, you're doing something. You're sitting on the couch. So it is just the mind not doing anything, not able to grit its teeth and bite into something that it wants to call and use the word boredom. I'm bored. My son used to say that a lot when he was 13. I'm bored. So, and that's because the mind isn't gritting its teeth into it. So what happens is sometimes in this experience, when we're standing at the door and waiting and there's this nothingness, there can be almost a feeling of depression happening, or a feeling of sadness happening. And that's because when the program begins to rewrite, and I don't need to rewrite the program, I'm standing at the door and being present. That is my only job in this, is to stand at the door and be present and wait patiently for God, Source, the universe, whatever you want to call it, to open the door. It's not my job to open the door. I am here to stand at the door and wait and be present. And it is in that when we accept the confusion, when we accept the restlessness, when we accept the nothingness, when we accept the boredom and become present through those experiences, and we allow those to pass through us, but not consume us. When they consume us, back to this, okay? When they consume us, we are back to looking and searching, looking for that dopamine fix. But when we allow the boredom to pass through us, or we allow the not knowing to be within us and pass through us, and we accept it, and we accept the boredom, and we accept the confusion, and we just accept the depression, not by labeling it depression. It just is what it is. It is a feeling, and when we accept it and we allow it to pass through us without consume us, it's like the rain. It may come for a week. You might have torrential downpour for a season, but it's gonna pass. This too shall pass. So when you allow those feelings that you have labeled as bad your entire life to just be, and you accept them, and you feel them, and you stay present with them fully, the door opens when you are truly ready. And you might have to be in this for a little while. You may have to experience this because it's not your place, or it isn't my place to judge when the door was to open or when it's going to open. It'll open when it's time. And that's where, when we get into this, there's an ultimate trust that begins to happen. There's an ultimate trust and faith and knowing that begins to happen. And as that gets bigger, the confusion, the nothingness, the boredom. And when I say nothingness, I don't mean the void, because I love going to the void in my meditations. I'm talking about nothing as in, you're not out running in the streets, or you're not out making exciting things happen. You're accepting the aspect that most people would call boredom. So when that happens, there's a trust that begins. And it's a knowing that boredom is an illusion. That depression, or what you have labeled, and society has labeled as a depression, isn't depression. It is the molecular breaking down of an addiction that the body has needed to go, and the mind has needed to go, and do. And when the breaking down of the need to do, and the acceptance of just being, and allowing things to unfold in your life as they're meant to instead of forcing them, when that begins to happen, that's a sad feeling. The body's going through a grieving process. There's a grieving that's happened, and that happens naturally. And that's why you'll see many ancient texts talk about enlightenment is a destructive process. It is a breaking down. It is a releasing of an illusion. So, this process may take time, can take a couple years. When I went through this destructive process, trust me, I went through a considerable amount of things. But I had to stand at the door and wait and allow the restlessness to be, and not listen to the restlessness by allowing the mind to dictate and not following the mind. The mind will scream at you. The mind will yell at you. You may feel aches in the body. But when you allow these to pass, this too shall pass, and you allow that presence to begin to permeate every cell in your body, the restlessness will fade. The confusion will fade. The boredom, what you've labeled as boredom, will fade. And a presence will permeate you. And when that happens, and in that moment of ultimate trust and knowing, the door will open. And when the door opens, it's amazing what you'll see and what you'll be. Have a good day.